A typical recommendation for controlling perennial warm season grasses is to apply glyphosate at 2 quarts per acre in late summer, and preferably a second application before frost. Additional treatment will be needed the next spring prior to planting. Similarly, perennial cool season grasses are also best controlled toward the end of their active growing season. In the case of cool season grasses, though, this will be more like mid-October to mid-November, depending on the fall. And like warm season perennials, you must plan for more than one round of treatment. For switchgrass and gamagrass, which are not tolerant to the pre-emergent herbicide imazapic, you have 2 choices. First, plant before early April to ensure you are well ahead of the germination of summer annuals. This will give the natives a competitive advantage, but will require moisture and temperature conditions during early April that enable timely germination of the native grasses. A second alternative is to wait until the annual grasses have germinated, typically by mid-May, and then kill these seedlings by either spraying or disking. You may need to repeat this process if annual grass pressure is particularly heavy. Additional rounds of annual grass control may delay planting natives, though, which then becomes a trade-off with soil moisture concerns later in the summer.
Now, we've talked about establishing native grasses in old pastures. We've talked about establishing them in crop fields. I want to talk now about really the worst case scenario, and that is common Bermuda grass. So I'm standing in a pasture that was planted several years ago to native grasses. Up here on the hill behind me, you can see that we got a good stand. On the other hand, right where I am, we have almost exclusively Bermuda grass. Here's a native grass plant that made it through, some Indian grass, but overwhelmingly this is common Bermuda grass. The problem is it is a tough competitor, and native grass seedlings have a very hard time making it past common Bermuda grass, and this is a stark reminder of that reality. Now, some people say because of the challenge of planting into Bermuda grass, you ought to avoid these fields entirely and select other sites, and that certainly is not bad advice. But if for some reason you do want to plant that field, the key thing that you have to do to be successful in controlling Bermuda enough to get native grasses established properly is you're going to have to start ahead of time the summer before, and you're going to have to do repetitive treatments of fairly high rates of herbicides. So for instance, about 4 quarts of glyphosate per acre plus about a pint of clethodim per acre. And doing that in, say, August, early October, and again the following spring. Don't be lulled to sleep by the idea that the field looks brown and you think you've killed it. You must be prepared to hit it multiple times if you're going to control this very, very aggressive weed species.